Ever wondered how just 4 chords can take you on a musical journey? Let me show you something cool. Have you ever stumbled upon a chord progression that instantly pulls you in, making you feel like you're travelling somewhere completely new, without even changing the key? Today we're looking at a fascinating 4-chord progression that does just that. You might not think much of the chords G major, B major, C major and A major at first glance, but trust me, when you play them in this order, they create a rich, unexpected harmonic journey. In this video, we'll explore why this progression works so well, how it creates tension and interest, and the iconic song that uses this exact progression. Let's dive in, and by the end of this video, you'll have a powerful new tool for your songwriting and improvisation. But here's the thing, what if I told you that we never actually resolve to where these chords are trying to take us? This sneaky trick keeps listeners hooked without them even realising it. More on that in just a second, but first, let's break down how this progression fits into the key of G major. Here are the diatonic chords in the key of G major. 1 G major, 2 A minor, 3 B minor, 4 C major, 5 D major, 6 E minor and 7 F sharp diminished. Our progression starts nice and simple with the 1 chord G major, and the 4 chord C major in bar 3 is an obvious choice. But here's where it gets interesting. Instead of staying in our comfort zone, we jump to B major, which isn't naturally part of the key. Normally you'd expect a B minor, the 3 chord, but instead we're using B major. Listen to how this sounds and look at the movement of the notes in the first 2 chords. Both chords share the B note. The G note in the G major chord moves down half a step to the F sharp note in the B major chord. This would be the same if I had played the diatonic B minor. The interesting note is the D sharp. We've moved up half a step from D in G major chord. But D sharp isn't in the G major scale, which the G major key chords are built from. This outside note is what brings tension and interest. But why are we playing the B major chord? Where does it come from? It is an example of a secondary dominant chord. A secondary dominant chord is a tool in music theory that adds colour and tension to a progression by temporarily making a non-tonic chord, which is any chord besides the home 1 chord of the key, feel like a temporary tonic. This is done by preceding the target chord with its own dominant chord, creating a sense of pull or resolution. In the key of G major, the dominant chord, built on the 5th scale degree, is D major, which resolves naturally to the tonic G major. Dominant chords are a critical part of Western music, and when you create a cadence by following them with the 1 chord, it helps to establish the key and tonal centre of a piece of music. Listen to this at work in the key of G major. A secondary dominant takes this concept further, targeting other chords in the key by treating them as if they were the tonic for a moment. This is like a brief glimpse into another key, pulling us towards it without committing to a full modulation. For example, if we treat the D major 5 chord like it's the 1 tonic, then we need to think of it as if we are in the key of D major. You can see the chords for the key of D major on screen. Here the 5 dominant chord is A major, so if we play this A major chord in our original key of G major, it will act like a dominant chord for the D major 5 chord. In other words, a secondary dominant. This is called the 5 of 5, written in notation as a V followed by a slash and then another V. Let's use this in a progression. I'll play the 1 chord G major, then the 5 of 5 A major, and then the 5 chord D major. Listen to how much the A major chord pulls us towards the D major chord. It's like we've put a temporary spotlight on the target chord, in this case D major, making it sound more significant. You can do this for the 2 to 6 chords in any major key. You can see all the secondary dominants for the G major key on screen. These chords are always major chords, and you can see how the notation works. You always have a V followed by a slash and then the target chord numeral after the slash. You can see that they are just major chords built on scale degrees starting at 5 for the 5 of 1 and then moving along. So now we know where our B major chord came from, it's the 5 of 6. And we've revealed the A major chord as the 5 of 5. So the notation of our progression is now complete. Have a listen to it again with this new information in mind. Following the tonic 1 chord immediately with a secondary dominant disrupts the tonal centre of a progression straight away, for reasons that we've discussed. This can be a great way to disorientate and surprise your listeners. But there's a big thing about this progression that makes it even more surprising. After the secondary dominant chords, we don't resolve to the obvious target chord. 5 of 6 moves to 4, and 5 of 5 moves back to 1. And yet, this progression still sounds coherent and interesting. Why is this? Well, look at the notes in the 6 chord E minor and the 4 chord C major. E minor has the notes E, G and B, while C major is constructed with C, E and G. So they share 2 notes in common, and as such, they work well after the relevant secondary dominant. Look at the notes when we move from B major to C major. Everything just moves up half a step. B moves to C, F sharp to G, and D sharp to E. So it feels like a smooth progression, and it works better than you might think. This is actually a common move that crops up a lot in popular songs. When you come across secondary dominants in most songs, they are usually played as dominant 7th chords. This further intensifies the pull towards the target chord, creating a strong desire to resolve and making the spotlight even brighter. This makes sense when you think about the role that the 5 dominant 7th chord plays in major key progressions. And in this example, it means that the 4 chord, C major, then shares 2 notes in common with the A dominant 7th. This becomes a smooth, pleasant transition with a laid-back feel. Have a listen to the progression now with B7 and A7. If this progression sounds like something you've heard before, you're absolutely right. It's used in the verse of the timeless classic Sitting on the Dock of the Bay by Otis Redding. This song uses the progression to create a feeling of movement, of drifting along, just like the lyrics suggest. That emotional push and pull is exactly why this 4-bar progression works so well. And here's the crazy part. Everything we just covered is just the beginning of what secondary dominants can do. Want to learn more ways to spice up your chord progressions? Watch the video on screen now to dive deeper into advanced harmonic tricks that will completely change how you see chords.